Okay, we are going to get started. Hello, Young Living family. We're really grateful and excited that you're joining us today. My name is Arturo Fuentes, and I'm the Director of Philanthropy at the Young Living Foundation. And as you know, this is a kind of a first preview for those of you who signed up to give this pledge to protect. This has been a huge project in the making, and we're excited that it's finally come to fruition. I keep thinking about our foundation's mission, which is to protect and to empower our world's young. And part of our values is to be globally responsive as the foundation, and that's responsive to conflict, to crises, and social problems that arise. And a massive one that's been happening right now is we're turning into an ever increasingly more virtual world, especially for our children and youth. And with that increase comes inherent risks. And so that's where this project has come in, to empower you, parents and caregivers, to better protect our children online. It's a real treat for me to introduce our main presenter, Heather. We've been working with her closely on this project. She has become quickly a very fond person in my life, who I look up to, who is a brilliant expert in this field. And so with no further ado, I'd like to give the time to Heather from the Hope for Justice team.
Thank you so much, Arturo. I echo his statements just in thanking all of you for being here today. I'm with Hope for Justice, like Arturo said, and we're an international nonprofit, and our vision is to really live in a world free from slavery. So today, with our partnership with the Young Living Foundation, we're going to be focusing on a subset of modern slavery and human trafficking happening online with youth. So before we get started, though, I do want to extend my deepest gratitude to Young Living and the Young Living Foundation for believing in our work, for working alongside of us as a partner and working towards this vision of a better world where there is no trafficking, there is no modern day slavery. And then secondly, I want to extend my thanks to you all for being here, for signing the pledge to take this course, for being interested in this topic, because you are a very key part of making the world a safer place for children. So I just want to touch really quick, if you've never heard of Hope for Justice or you're wondering who we are, like I said, we're an international nonprofit. We are global, and we serve 5 different continents with over 30 different locations. Over the last 5 years, though, we've heavily invested in our presence throughout North America, and we're growing our presence because we do believe that human trafficking is a global, anywhere problem, meaning that wherever you are, it in fact is. But we really have been working, especially in North America, to work with local communities, really tackling trafficking in our own backyards. And so here you can see, here are the 5 locations in North America on this map where we're doing just this. And we're looking to bring this mission and vision to other locations throughout North America as well. And so we do this work of ending modern day slavery and serving survivors in 4 different pillar areas: prevention, rescue, restoration, and reform. It's our hope that we can make an impact and move the needle on this very large societal issue by operating in all of these multiple points throughout the continuum. But truly, my goal is that one day I'm out of a job because Hope for Justice isn't needed anymore, because that day, there will be no more victims. The survivors have all been provided access to high quality trauma-informed services and care to overcome the abuse, and we've ended this evil. So that's the dream one day. But for today, we're going to focus on a subset of that dream, right? We're going to we're going to hold this session and trainings like this because, again, this serves in terms of prevention. So we can provide education around how we protect and prevent children from falling prey to predators online. So we'll focus on online child exploitation, and I'll talk in a minute about that very long term and what all it means. But we want to focus on how you can keep your kids safe in the digital world that we're currently living in. Before we dive in though and have some fun together, I do want to touch on a few housekeeping things. I saw one question come up with a participant saying, are we all muted? And that is absolutely correct. So you are on the money, whoever you are. Thank you. We're using the webinar version of Zoom today for this presentation. So what this means is that hopefully you can see my face right now and our screen and our slides, but I can't see you. So it's great for hosting bigger groups and groups of size, but what it means is that we really have to work hard to use technology so that we can stay engaged with each other. And in order to do that, there are two main functions that we would like you to utilize today. So on the bottom of your Zoom, you should see kind of that black ribbon, and you should see a Q&A feature, which is question and answer. And then you should see a chat feature on there. So we want to encourage you, please use the chat function. So click that chat. You can send a question or a comment to the panelists and the hosts. So that would be Young Living or Hope for Justice there. But you can also send comments to the whole group. So all of the participants that are on today. And we want that to be an open forum. So we want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts and comments throughout the presentation. And we want to be able to engage with you that way. And then there's also the Q&A, the question and answer function that you'll see there, where you can submit a question directly to us. We're going to do our best to try to get to some of those questions throughout the presentation, but we'll also save time at the end for some of those Q&As, for some of the questions that have come in throughout the session. So in a moment, we're going to be using a third part of Zoom because technology is really neat and cool. We're going to be using a polling function. So you'll actually see that pop up on your screen as well. And you get to like fill out those polls and engage in that way. And we'll be going through that together. And the last thing I just want to say is that today we are just going to be cover a few topics under the digital world and prevention and keeping our kids safe online. We could talk for days on the topic. But we don't have days right now. However, at the end, we're going to be talking about this course that we've launched, and that is really a deeper dive on the topic. So today you might say, I wanted to know more, I wanted to do, and that's what this is all about. It's introducing you to that course so that whenever you have time and in the comfort of your own home, you can go through this online training yourself. And then lastly, just a word of caution. This is a heavy topic. I'm going to be sharing facts and statistics that could be jarring or triggering. So we just want to encourage you to take care of yourself. Note the nature, the sensitive nature of this topic. If you need to take a break, take a break. Come back. We would also encourage you to do that when you get into the online course as well. So to start things off, we're going to do our own little study. So this is going to help me get to know a little bit about you and your social media use. So in a moment, you're going to see a poll pop up, and it's 6 questions, but don't be worried. They're not multiple answer. It's just a simple yes or no. And so I'm going to challenge you to really be honest with us about your social media use. We're going to get to know each other, and I'm going to get to know you. Just mark yes or no. So take a few seconds to go through that, and there's no judgment and no shame. This survey is anonymous, so it won't say, Heather Stockdale answered this way to all of the questions. So just take a moment, fill that out. Okay, so hopefully you've had a moment to fill out that quick poll. And we're going to look at the results together in a second. So in a second, you should see that pop up on your screen. So you'll be able to see what all of us as a group together, what we all responded to those 6 questions with. Okay, so you can see here that 100% of us own a smartphone. 93% of us are on at least one social media app. In terms of how many of us go online every day, 93% of us go online every day as well. 67% of us have met someone online that we would consider a friend. 67% of us have also had negative behavior, basically targeting us online. And then 87% of us have posted something online. And then after thinking about it, we've gone back and kind of changed or deleted that out. So that's just interesting. And that's going to be a springboard for us. So through that, you can see kind of overwhelmingly across those 6 questions, 67% or above of those of us on the call are experiencing all of these things together, really showcasing and showing us and demonstrating that we all are a part of this online and digital world, right? And I think all of us kind of know that contextually. Our world is becoming ever increasingly digital and virtual, and things are always online nowadays. But my question to you is right here. If we are filling that out, and if 67% or above of us are having those experiences, what do you think our kids are experiencing? What are the kids and teenagers and young people in our life going through living in this increasingly digital and virtual world? And I think as I think about this as an adult, I can remember a day, and maybe some of you can, before smartphones, it was just 10 years ago, TikTok wasn't even a thing, right? And so I can remember when we had dial-up internet in my house. I can remember when our family got our first computer. And that was the beginning of this technology and digital world for me as a young person. But so many of our kids don't have that. They've always been here in this digital virtual world. So they don't have memories of what things were like before that. And so we're going to dive into these results real quick and think about what this might look like for our teens. And research is going to tell us what that looks like today. So in terms of our first question, I own a smartphone. 100% of us own a smartphone. All of us on this call, on this presentation, own a smartphone. And so we should assume the same is for our youth, right? So according to a 2018 Pew study, 95% of teens, and that's ages 13 and up, have a smartphone. Furthermore, 88% of teens have a computer at home in which they can go online, and 84% of teens have a gaming console in which they can go online at home. So then the second one, I'm on at least one social media network or app. So 93% of us said that we were. And so in looking at kids and teens, in terms of children, 45% of kids, and this is under the age of 13 for this one, use Facebook daily, while 40% of children in that same age group used Instagram. So that's from a nonprofit called Thorn that we partner with, who produced that report just last year in May of 2021. In addition to that, 75% of teens are on at least one social media app, and 85% of teens are on YouTube, which is what we are seeing as a trend, that YouTube is the most frequently utilized online and social media app now in 2022 and increasing. Now for our third question, I go online every day. 93% of us said that we go online every day. And so the interesting thing is when we compare this to our teens, 45% of teens say that they are almost constantly online. And then further, 44% of them say just under that they are online several times a day. And then during the pandemic, we saw children ages 4 through 15 doubling their screen time online. And this is primarily through YouTube. It kind of makes sense when we think about the pandemic, moving to online learning and our connections and utilizing technology that way. But it is crazy to kind of see in that age group of 4 to 15 doubling their screen time. And that is from a study called Teen Social Media and Technology, published in 2018. Now for question 4, I've met someone online who I would now consider a friend. 67% of us answered yes to this. So again, when we compare and we look at teens, for so many of today's teens, friendships can actually start online. So when polled, 31% of teens believe that social media has had a positive effect on society. And they most frequently cited that is because it helped them interact, engage, and keep in touch with others. Now, in 2015, Pew Research Center asked teens this same question that I asked you all today. And 57% of teens said that they have met a new friend online. And nearly 29% said that they've made more than 5 friends online and digital spaces. For question 5, this is about that cyberbullying, negative comments, or actually having to block someone online for their negative behavior. I've had to do it. 67% of you have had to do it. And in terms of our teens, 59% of US teens have experienced at least one of 6 types of abusive online behavior. And that previous polling question that I asked you, 24% of teens, so definitely in the minority here, but 24% say that social media has had a negative effect on children today because of cyberbullying and negative behavior. And then our last question, I've posted something online and gone back and deleted it later. So in terms of this one, this is what I want you to think about, and this is what we need to teach our children. The internet does not have a delete key. The internet is now like our permanent record, and it's our permanent record for children these days. Nothing is ever truly deleted. And I said, yes, even with Snapchat, even when people think that that comes up and then it disappears, it's still recorded. It is still hosted on a server somewhere. It's not going anywhere. And so that is really important, because I think by doing these polls, and thank you to everyone for engaging and taking those polls. There's no judgment. So many of us are in the same place on all of those, but we live in a virtual world now. So we saw that just ourselves. And then the research that we talked about showed that our children do too. So if we're engaging in these ways, we need to know that kids are engaging the same way. They're taking their behavior and their cues from us. We are modeling for our children. And so our children experience this at the same or even higher rates than we do. So what I want you to think about technology is, I want you to think about technology like this. Technology inherently is neither good nor bad. We can all learn to harness the good and protect ourselves and our families from the bad. And that's what we're going to focus on in this course that you've all signed up as early signers to, that you pledged to take. That's an important lesson I think that you should bring into you when you get this education online and when you access this course. So I promised you we would be talking about online child sexual exploitation and this term and what that means. So what that really means, just broadly, is the use of technology or the internet to facilitate the sexual abuse of a child. And this is absolutely a precursor to child sex trafficking, and research shows us that. And so what this includes, it includes grooming, live streaming, consuming child sexual abuse material, or CSAM, you may have heard that called, coercing and blackmailing children for sexual purposes, engaging in a chat with a child about sexual acts, sending nude or pornographic images of themselves, exposing themselves on live streaming, asking a child to view pornographic images, asking a child to perform sex acts or expose themselves, talking about sexual things with the child, taking or making and sharing indecent images of children. So all of these things are kind of in that category of online child sexual exploitation. And what it's important to know is that this is increasing. So in 2021, this is NCMEC, that stands for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They received more than 29.3 million cyber tip line reports containing almost 85 million images, videos, and other content related to child sexual abuse and exploitation online. This is up 35% in a year. So from 2020 to 2021, when they studied their numbers, it was up 35%, which should give us an idea of how widespread this is across North America. And so if you are thinking to yourself, Heather, I don't believe you, or I'm not sure I'm going to take your word for it, or I don't know about those stats that you're showing from NCMEC, the good news is that I have a little experiment that we did so that we could kind of look at this, because I think the question for all of us is, okay, that's what research says. And those are the numbers that they're publishing, but does this really affect me? Does this affect people in my community? And should I really be worried about this for my family? So we did this experiment to see if online exploitation is as prevalent as research suggests it is. So I want you to meet Jenny. You can see Jenny here. Jenny is a 15-year-old from Iowa. She is your everyday average American teen. She likes to hang out with her friends. She gets good grades in school. She's on the volleyball team, loves to play volleyball. And because of her good grades and academic achievement, her mom just allowed and approved her to get her own Instagram account for the first time. So that's the situation with Jenny, and we set Jenny up as an online profile. So Hope for Justice monitored the account, engaged with others online as Jenny for a little over a week. So I want you to think in your head, what do you think is going to happen during that week? What do you think we found? And I think you're going to be shocked by what you'll see. We recorded a video of the experiment with one of our investigators, David. And in a second, I'm going to play his video and you'll get to see what happens during this experiment.
What we did on the 19th of April, 2022 is create an Instagram account. And in the Instagram account, I was able to use one profile picture, which I actually collected as a stock photo from the internet, which contained multiple people within that photo, so that it would be harder to tell exactly who I was. Upon establishment of the Instagram account, within 48 hours, I was contacted by 3 different individuals. We're going to talk about 2 of those. The first person we're going to talk about, immediately he sent me a private message or a DM telling me that he's willing to pay $5,000 for photographs and videos. Later on, he would explain a little bit more about those photographs and videos, but you're going to be able to see some of the things that were discussed. I did tell him a little bit about myself, meaning I did explain to him that I lived at home with my mom and that I was young. This did not deter him for kind of explaining what he wanted. As long as we kept it private and between the 2 of us, certainly he's going to explain a lot of things in his messages about how he wants this to go. One of the big things that you're going to notice right off the bat is obviously that trust factor, that trust issue, and that bonding that he wants to have happen. He wants to make sure that we kept it private, that was between the 2 of us, and that we had trust that we can build upon. He wants to be not only, which he explains, my mentor, but again, that I can only have a conversation with him. The second person that we're going to discuss, immediately you're going to try to see that establishment of trust that's going to continue. It was pretty interesting and again concerning, but he did explain to me once we started talking about my age, he responds with, I had a friend who talked to a teen and he got in trouble, so we need to be very careful. We need to keep our conversations in the DM. That's a way of isolation. It's also a way to keep things private. And certainly he's going to talk about trust as well and try to build upon that. He's also going to try to show that he's a nice person and that I should trust him. I think it's important to mention, and I can't stress enough, just how quickly I was contacted in the private chat area or the DM or the PM of Instagram by these 2 individuals. You can only imagine if this conversation lasted for weeks or months, which is not uncommon, where we would be at the end of those weeks or months.
So you can all see from the experiment that we did that our eyes should be opened to this activity occurring. And so you heard David say that within 48 hours, 3 predators online had chatted with him privately. And then you saw excerpts from some of those conversations. So this is happening. And I think oftentimes we tell ourselves certain things, or we believe maybe in some of those like preconceived notions to kind of protect ourselves, I think, emotionally from that. So these are some of the things that we say or think. This could never happen to my child. My kid would tell me if this was happening. I would know if someone was grooming my child. This doesn't really happen where I live. It might happen X, Y, and Z place, but it's not happening here. Or this only happens when young girls are on some of those bad websites or inappropriate websites like OnlyFans. So all of these things that sometimes we tell ourselves, these are myths, because the reality is, even if you have discussed this with your child, even if you've put some safeguards in place, your child is still at risk simply based on 2 factors. 1, they are a child, and 2, they are online. And so when we started really chatting about this between Hope for Justice and the Young Living Foundation, we were on a call one day where we were just discussing all of these disturbing trends, the research that had just been published. And then with Hope for Justice, we were trading some of the stories about the youth We were sharing some of the stories about the youth that we've engaged with that have been victimized by online sexual exploitation. And then with Young Living, we were talking about some of the news media stories that you've heard come out, like an adult trying to convince a 15-year-old to send him her nude photos. He pretended to be in the modeling industry. And so she sent these photos because she wanted to be famous and she wanted to be a model. Or another story about an adult manipulating 2 teen boys into performing sex acts on webcam, in which he was secretly recording them and then threatened to publish those videos on pornographic websites if the boys did not continue those sexual acts. So we're sharing all of these things together, and then we're kind of lamenting the fact that so many trainings that are out there really claim to prepare adults, parents, and communities with how to deal with this issue. But they oftentimes left all of us feeling quite overwhelmed or defeated, just feeling like, well, what can I do? What do I need to do? Or I want to throw away that smartphone, or I want to smash that smartphone because nothing good can ever come of it. But it was then that we really realized that there was a gap and that we needed to create a different type of training. And that's when we began partnering together. We wanted to create a lasting, impactful learning experience that would do 3 things. And those are the 3 things that you see here on your screen. We wanted to teach people how to keep the kids in their life safe. And we wanted to do that through educating them, equipping them with tools and tips and conversation starters and all of these things to be able to take that home. And then we wanted to empower them to do so. We didn't want them feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I'm just one person. There's so much out there. How much research do I need to do? We wanted to provide everything and empower them and say, you can do this. And in fact, it is so important that you be the one to do this for the child in your life, to be able to protect that child that you care about in your life. And so that's what we did over the course of the last, I think, a little less than a year. We, together in partnership between Hope for Justice and the Young Living Foundation, created this training that we have called Keeping Kids Safe in a Digital World. This is a 3-part online training because we were so inspired by the real stories of survivors that we've worked with, been so inspired by those news media stories and a lot of the things that Young Living and Hope for Justice we were chatting about. And we wanted to create this, like I said, interactive and engaging training. So when you go to take this course, which is what this is all about, is preparing you for that online course, it is not a click through PowerPoint. You're not just going through slides or listening to a recording. This is a high quality multimedia training. And in fact, so many of the stories of the youth that we work with are embedded and inspired within the course. And the course gives you a chance to actually practice and apply the learning throughout the courses and throughout the training. So we are releasing this training, and we're so excited to be releasing this training on July 30th, which is a global World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. So that day is so meaningful. This course is so meaningful. So we were so excited to kind of set that as our end date in mind, where we could be releasing to you for free these courses for you to take. And I really challenge and encourage all of you to observe this day by taking your action against this and by allowing yourself to be a part of the celebration of that day by getting some of this education and knowledge and bringing that home. So here's my total challenge to you and the next steps that you can take. On July 30th, take the course, get educated, and take this 3-part training. And then take what you've learned and make changes towards increasing protections for the children or a child in your life. And then third, share this course and encourage your friends and family to become educated too. Spread this knowledge and awareness around so that all children can be protected from online sexual exploitation. So thanks so much for your time and for your attention today. I know that we've had some questions come up and we have some time saved for that. So I want to see any questions that you all have, or maybe a new burning question you've just thought of. Feel free to drop that in the chat or in the Q&A function. And we'll see what kind of questions we've had come up during the session.
Heather.
Yes.
Hi. So one of the questions I think is, just about how to get a recording of this session?
So we have recorded this session. Young Living Foundation has done that for us. So shout out to them for doing that and for thinking of it. And Young Living, I think, is going to be sending out an email to all of you who signed up, everyone who signed the pledge and who signed up early, and then everyone who's on today, and you'll get a recording of this presentation.
We have another question. Has Hope for Justice experienced online exploitation in any of their active investigations?
Ooh, that's such a good one. Yes. So I think I mentioned throughout this course that we used actually so many of the stories, the real life stories. We used details of those in crafting a lot of the child stories that you'll see and the examples within the online course. So one example that I'll give you, this is a little bit of a teaser too, is we worked with a young person who had been groomed and exploited online by someone that he thought he was chatting with a kid his own age through a gaming console that he was on in a game that he was playing with. So he thought it was a kid his own age, but it turned out to be an adult. He was groomed and exploited online, and this person also convinced him to meet up in person. And so we got the call from the parents. We were able to track down, we were able to go and help rescue this individual and help his family get therapeutic and trauma-informed services afterwards. And you will hear about that whole story. And actually, it's a story we call him, we refer to him, we gave him a different name to protect his confidentiality, but we refer to him as JD. And you have the whole story about JD actually within this online course, but that is a great question. And Kayla has put in the chat, hopefully all of you can see that the sign up link for the training is on younglivingfoundation.org/pledge to protect. And you can sign up for that if you haven't yet. You can also share that link with your friends and family too, and they can receive the course and access to the course so that they can take it on July 30th as well, which is great. So Kayla, thanks for telling everyone about that. And like I said, Kayla's the one who's been recording this and sending out the email. So shout out to her for thinking forward for all of us so that we would all have access to this afterwards as well. Okay, well, if there are no other, oh, go ahead.
No, that's fine. There's just one other question, and I'm thinking that you can just talk a little bit about the resources. The question is, what blocker does Hope for Justice recommend?
Ooh, yeah. Oh, thank you so much for whoever asked that question. So what we actually recommend, and what you'll see in our course, and specifically in part 2 of the course, is we actually recommend blockers on all sorts of the interface with the internet. So in the course, we cover internal controls like in your home, and then external controls, basically meaning on a child's cell phone, a tablet, anything that they're taking outside of the home. And so inside the home, we actually recommend protections on your internet service with your provider, through your router, your wireless signal. There are so many cool things that technology allows us to do that can protect your children. And we go through those in detail. And then we do cover additional software such as Spark and ones that you can download or that you can physically buy to add to your router or to your wireless signal as well. We touch on a few of those and give some recommendations there. And then we actually walk you through some of the external controls that you should have on devices once they leave your home as well. So the cool thing is that there are already so many things built in. And so it's just about us knowing what those are and how to use those and how to put those in place and kind of testing that out ourselves. And then, yes, we do cover some of that other software like blockers that you can potentially put on and add on as well for another added layer of protection.
Thanks, Heather. I think that's it for the questions right now.
Okay, well, I'm sure Arturo wants to close us out, but just in closing on my end, I just want to thank you all for being here. I truly meant what I said earlier, having people like you adults who care about kids in the world and care about this issue is a part of how we bring awareness and how we change the landscape of modern slavery and human trafficking across North America. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for your time. I know it is valuable. We are so grateful to have partnered with this on this project with Young Living, and I can't wait to hear about what all of you think about the training.
Thanks so much, Heather.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you everyone for joining us today. If there are any lingering questions, you can always reach out to the foundation at info@younglivingfoundation.org, and we can direct you to the right places. Hope everyone has an excellent weekend. And again, thanks for joining us.